Here we go.
All right, guys, welcome. We need a name for this. I guess I should have thought that through. We don't even really have a name for this, but I'm calling it a CFM Roundtable. It's kind of a lame name, but maybe these dudes can help me come up with a better name. But thank you guys for tuning in to this presentation, this podcast. The whole idea here is just to present some community involvement, get some guys from around the CFM community to come together and talk about CFM and kind of talk about what their leagues look like, what their communities look like, what we would like to see happen as a community and as a game, and just try to get them to take notice that we are a pretty large community and we've got a lot of neat stuff that's going on out there. So let me just kind of take a second here to welcome everybody in. What I'd like to do before we get kicked off here is just have everybody introduce yourselves, tell us just a brief statement about maybe how you got into, or just the name of your league and how long you've been doing CFM and your name and where you're from. So PX, why don't we start with you? We'll kind of, you guys can see that. We'll go PX, Logan, and then we'll go to Shopmaster. You guys kind of introduce yourselves.
All right, I'm Majesty95 from PX1 Sports, and we've been running leagues on there for going into our fourth year of Madden with Madden 18. Started on another site, kind of broke off, did my own thing, and been into the sim community ever since then, and just trying to do what we can to innovate and bring new ideas and cool things to the CFM community.
You want me just to take off?
Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah, no, you just go ahead.
Yeah, we've been around since 2008, and what was interesting about us is we've rebranded a lot, and we kind of changed and evolved. And I was telling some of these guys before, if you're not willing to evolve and kind of change your league and be open to new ideas, I feel like you're kind of the old dinosaur. So we started out. It was the commissioner was an Italian guy. He really wanted cultures. His idea was to get a representative from all around the world. So we'd have a couple of United States guys. We'd have a couple guys from Spain, all these other places. And it was cool, but the time differences and things were difficult. But what we really bonded on was community. And I think that's what kind of kept our league together, was just the idea of community. I'm sure my story is no different than most leagues, but I feel like that's the most important thing. And I feel like that's what we have.
Shopmaster, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
All right, my name is Shopmaster. The funny thing is a lot of people think that I run a league. I help run one league called Madden Wars, but I just love franchise mode. And so I'm in a number of different CFMs, and I call myself sort of like the voice of the community a long time ago. But I've been doing this since for the longest time, and I've seen franchise grow over the years, and I just think it just needs some attention. And so I took it upon myself, these last 3 or 4 years just to try to get the devs to understand the community that's out there, the different people that are involved in some of the great things that the community is doing.
Well, Shopmaster, I'm going to admit you're one of the more intriguing guys. I just kind of started following you on Twitter, of course, and I just kind of respect all of the content that you're kind of doing for the community, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that all three of you guys have taken time on a Friday afternoon to come and to be with us. Again, I hope that this kind of catches on, that people dig what we do here. And I think it's a good thing to have the CFM community get together and just talk about things that affect our community. I think too many times we really become about our own leagues and kind of our own communities, and we forget that there's a bunch of us out there, and there's a bunch of really good leagues. There's a flavor for every different type of owner, since we all kind of have our different rules and different things that guide our community. So I think that coming together just really gives people out there that want to get into CFM a large variety they can pick from. Just a quick brief about who I am. My name is Nate Lejeune. I Got started in 2001 with the very first Madden that had online franchises back in the PC days. I am an original PC gamer. I miss it. That game was so much fun. You could do so much stuff with it. But I do love the new stuff. I think the game that we currently have is really, really great. We are probably, as far as I know, the longest online league that has been going nonstop in the existence of online leagues. Of course, we started in January 2001, and we've been going ever since. We were a PC league for a very long time. I think like 5 or 6 or 7 years, something like that. Moved over to PS3 once it went to console, and then moved over to PS4. We've had a couple different commissioners. I have not been the commissioner nonstop, but I did get the name back a couple of months ago. I actually started my own thing. I broke away from the OMFL. Then it kind of folded. That commissioner decided it wasn't for him anymore after a couple of years, let me have my name back. And so we went from grown folks to community, or the Madden League, to the community with the OMFL back being part of it. So I've seen a lot. I've been part of a lot, and I'm excited about doing this. I kind of want to talk about just where things started for you tonight. But to get us started, we got the new trailer. I don't know that I'd call it a trailer. It's just the teaser of what's coming. But I'm going to play it. Have you guys seen it? If you've seen it, what do you think about it? What kind of caught your eye? What do you think when you see these things drop?
To be honest, if I can take it first, it terrifies me, to be honest, because it looks good. And every time Madden looks good, especially in a trailer form, where there's a lot of CGI kind of effects, I start to wonder because, we were burned by that when they went to the Unite engine. But Frostbite, if you look at some of their other titles and, like FIFA and things like that, I'm excited, especially the little bit we got about maybe having a story mode. I think that could intrigue more people to play the game. And then if more people play the game, maybe they, check out some of the other modes. So I do think it kind of might allow us to see a different type of gamer, maybe be interested in the sim environment.
I will say, Rex confirmed on Twitter today that all of the footage is actual in-game footage, so you don't have to worry about any Madden 06 issues with this one. So it's all coming from the game.
Well, Majesty,
Yeah, I
what do you
mean,
think about it?
Well, there's not a lot there. I mean, some guys were trying to look at it. Oh, yeah, the graphics are better and the lighting and this and that. To me, yeah, I think you could tell in like the Ezekiel Elliott rated the spin move, the lighting was really good, and it looks like we're probably going to have some new moves and animations that are put in there. I think the biggest thing to take from it is, just, obviously it looks like there's going to be a story mode, and you're going to go through the combine. I'm hoping that there's some kind of college part to it, kind of like NBA 2K My Player, where you have some colleges. I pitched an idea to Rex back at the beginning of Madden 17, so hopefully he used it. But I'm excited to find out about that. I don't know how much I'm actually going to play it, but it's intriguing. But I'm more interested in the stuff that wasn't in the trailer that was released throughout the day than what we really got out of the trailer.
Chop, what do you think about it, man?
I've been around. I've seen trailers for a long time, and I tend not to get too excited about trailers anymore, especially teaser trailers, because they're just that. They're teasers. But you did see some good things. I love it looked like there was a new presentation. I don't know if that was the Super Bowl or whatever, but you can hear, chants of MVP. The lighting and the smoke was all different. So you could definitely see they were trying to show off the Frostbite engine there, and everything looked good. And then the little bit about the story mode at the end, it's kind of hard to tell. Is it a full blown story mode now? I have not seen Madden 18 at all, so I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. It could be something hopefully it's something that's tied to franchise. That would be great too if you could do a superstar franchise, and that's how it turns out.
All right, so the topic that I was going to present to you guys tonight before this trailer teaser dropped was just about CFM. Like, how'd you get into it? Kind of what made you create your community or really get into CFM? and you guys can weave that in. But this teaser and hearing you guys talk is kind of, again, this is just a round table. We'll see where these conversations go, and if we run out of time, and we'll pick this baby right back up on the next one. But so if you want, integrate that into kind of some of your responses, or if we don't get to it, man, we'll get to it on the next podcast. But I do have some questions I'd love to hear from you. And that is just around this teaser about, do you care? Like, at the end of the day, Frostbite sounds amazing, and I'm super glad because I'm a FIFA guy, and I know what the engine does, and I think it's going to open up a whole new realm of possibilities. But let me go to one that just kind of, I've heard it many times, and I hear you kind of loud and clear that I like the fact that it can open the door to people who've never tried CFM and online leagues to maybe give it a try. But do you really care about story mode? And if you do, why? Or if you don't, why not?
All right, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go for it.
Okay, I was just gonna say, for me, I really don't care for story mode in Madden, just because I don't think it's gonna get as in depth as like NBA 2K My Player is. You got to understand the NFL is very, very particular about what goes in Madden, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. But they are very particular about protecting the NFL shield. And so when you think there's going to be some juicy storylines or,
the only thing juicy is their pocketbook.
Yeah, I don't think there is going to be juicy storylines.
No.
There's a reason why you don't see helmets popping off in Madden. There's a reason why you don't see ambulances. You don't see people getting carried off the field. You don't see anything about you don't see anything about a concussion.
Sure.
You don't see anything that's gonna put a negative light on on the NFL shield. And so that's why I was very, like, a lot of people even before this were like, Madden needs a My Player type mode, and I'm like, okay, but I think it's gonna be bland. And also I think that with Frostbite, this is one of those things where it's this first year in its inception. So I just hope people don't have big hopes for the Frostbite changing everything in the game, because I do think it's going to take a while for them to get everything that they want out of the Frostbite engine.
Yeah, PX or Majesty, I want to come to you next, but I agree with you. I think that we hear these things and we're like, oh, they're going to do everything at once, but that's not going to happen. I mean, it's going to take them a while before they get where they want to go, and to be honest, I mean, they've got to, they can't do everything at once. There's not enough time. Plus, why would they? They've got to kind of spread some things out here so the game continues to improve over the next few years. I personally could care less about story mode. I played it on FIFA. It's kind of neat, but I can't get into something that I feel is predetermined, if that makes sense. Like, I get that you get to actually play with your player, but I don't know. The whole story mode, I just can't get into. I like the show. It's you just play the games and you kind of increase your rating. The actual story mode, like buying a house and all that stuff, doesn't really interest me at all. And it usually, I don't know, I have a hard time getting into it. But Majesty, what do you think about story mode? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
I like the idea of it. I think it's good for the game. I'll probably dabble in it a little bit, especially depending upon how much they do with it. But the EA earnings call the other day said that 12 million people had played the story mode in FIFA, and they had 21 million in sales overall. I mean, those are
crazy,
insane numbers. So if it can bring new people in to play in Madden and it can increase the sales, that's good for everybody. Not only do you have more potential people that can join CFM, but you just have more revenue flowing into the game, which can allow them to hire more people, buy new technology, and then in turn put more into the game. So whether I play it or somebody else plays or whatever, I mean, it's kind of like the Madden championships and stuff like that. A lot of guys don't like it, but if it brings in a new breed of player, then it's good for the game. And anything that we can do or we can get in the game that's going to add new eyeballs onto it is just good for us in the long term.
Logan, you buying or selling story mode?
I'm buying it for just that reason. I think the more people play the game and stay connected to the game, it's going to help CFM and other modes like these guys were saying. Now, I do agree with the first guy when he said that we're not going to get these juicy storylines because, I mean, like, we probably aren't even going to get a college mode, to be honest, because of the lawsuit, because they're going to be very careful. They don't want to step in anything, but I do think the more you attract sports fans to your game, the better. And when you're competing against the show with a road to the show thing, when you're competing against my team, or not my team, excuse me, my career, you need something. Now, granted, it's probably not going to be to the scale of those things, but to my liking, hopefully it opens up the door to team play. That's what I'm hoping for personally. But we'll see.
Well, let me ask you guys this. How worried are you guys that this story mode might take away from
that was my
any
next
kind
question.
of development on CFM?
100%. I think it has to. They don't have unlimited budget, unlimited employees, unlimited resources. I think anytime you have a big feature like that, it has to take away from something.
I don't know if I buy that. FIFA, I haven't heard anybody say that FIFA's franchise mode has suffered. If you look at my GM on NBA 2K, it's amazing. I mean, it's so deep, it's crazy. And it kind of has its own RPG element outside of My Player. I mean, the My GM on NBA 2K is kind of like Road to the Show, and then you have a separate My Player. So, I mean, is there a possibility that EA says, "Hey, we got to pull from something," and we pull from franchise? Maybe, but with all the money that they're bringing in with MUT, like that's kind of growing all the time anyway. So it would make sense to reinvest some of that money in your other properties. And so I would think they're smarter than to say, well, let's rob Peter to pay Paul and take from another franchise that's kind of struggling on its own anyway, that's not generating revenue, to put into another one that's not going to generate revenue. I would think MUT kind of funds those things, and actually they can thrive both on their own, because again, at the end of the day, it's all about getting as many people playing the game as you can, so that then they may try out MUT or something like that and jump into those revenue generating modes.
Yeah,
Logan, what do you think?
I think I concur with that. I think, like, I keep going back to this, but the longer people play your game, the better. So whether I even not that I promote the mode, but I do agree that MUT has a place and does help CFM in a way, because it keeps people interested. It keeps people playing your game. And I do think anytime you're playing this game in any kind of gameplay format, there's a possibility you might say, hey, let me check out this franchise. I played enough of this mode. Let me check out this. Maybe that's me being naive. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm used to being the pessimistic guy. You guys are making me the optimistic. So my league's going to appreciate that. They're going to see a different side of me.
Well, Logan, let's stay with you real quick. We were talking about the career and the story mode or whatever might be there. Clearly, there's going to be something, and I think it's cool. It's a new addition. Mm-hmm. But we were also talking about lighting and smoke, and like, I get that stuff is really cool, but are you really digging that? Or are you wanting to see something deeper, something better, whether it's how players move, the interactions, animations, that kind of stuff? Or do you really, really dig those smoke and lights and shadows and, sunsets and all that other stuff?
It's a catch-22, because the presentation and the game looking good is going to intrigue people to play it. And if they play it, they might check out a good league that has podcasts that's formulated like ours. But it could take away. So I understand, the concern, if they invest this much time into this mode, they're not going to give us some of the stuff we need, like maybe resetting a cap, or when an owner leaves and, dumps all of his players. I'm sure we've all had that happen. Are they going to give us these kind of functionalities that we need as commissioners? There's a possibility it doesn't. But I'm hopeful for this year's game, because I thought the Night Engine did so much wrong that I don't know, I'm just excited to have something new.
Chop, what do you think? You into the smoke, the
Um,
lights, the shadows?
no, I mean, I think when you're talking about, wanting to get a deeper experience, you have to add those things. And I think, if we're talking about, for instance, in CFM, we're talking about weather and how I just feel
Sure.
like it's either raining or it's bright and sunny.
Yeah.
There's no in between. There's no, it's not raining the first quarter and it's raining the second quarter. If the Frostbite engine can bring some new elements so that each game feels like a different game, and playoffs feel like the playoffs because of more smoke, more crowd energy from the crowd, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So I think it does help in that aspect.
Yeah, and that I can dig, and I totally get what you're saying, and coming to just make every game feel unique because it's lost that majesty. What do you kind of think about the lights, the smoke, and all that stuff?
Presentation, and the good thing about it is they all have separate teams. There's a presentation team, there's a commentary team, there's a gameplay team, there's a franchise team. So they really don't take away from each other necessarily. They all kind of serve their own part. Obviously, gameplay is the most important because it doesn't matter how good the graphics are, how much all the other stuff, is great if the gameplay is not great. But assuming you have great gameplay, then all that other stuff just adds to that immersion. I'm not as big on, the intros and stuff like that. Like, I wasn't a big fan of the players standing around with their arms folded last year, that kind of intro that they had. That
Yeah.
was kind of bunk. But I do, if they can have more things that make it feel like a real broadcast, I'm down with that. The big thing, kind of like Shop was saying, that I'm really interested in is I'm interested in dynamic lighting and dynamic weather.
Yeah.
So, in the show, as you play, the sun gradually moves and you get shadows. It feels like you're actually at the stadium because it's not just every, 30 minutes or whatever it changes. I think they had that in NCA back in the day. Every quarter the lighting would shift. But I
Right?
would like
Yeah.
to see dynamic lighting where gradually just out throughout the game the lighting shifts and your shadows change and stuff like that. That would be cool, assuming you're playing a day game. And then I want dynamic weather, kind of like Shop was saying. I want to see it start off kind of cloudy and then start raining during the day, or maybe it starts snowing lightly and starts snowing heavier and heavier, and you see snow piling up and stuff like that. And I think Frostbite's going to give them the ability to do that. Whether we're going to see all that stuff this year, I don't know. But based on what you see in Battlefield and Battlefront and stuff like that, I haven't played FIFA this year, so I don't know what they've done with it. But I think it's going to give them the opportunity to do a lot more with dynamic lighting and dynamic weather, which is going to really add to the overall experience, especially when you're playing franchise mode. You get into those November and especially December games, you want to see some snow games around the league and have that impact some things. So I think it's cool, in that aspect.
Now, maybe you three guys have seen, because clearly you're deeper in this than I have been. I get so deep into my community, and not a whole lot of people know who I am, so I don't get all that inside information like y'all may. Maybe you've seen a little bit more, but I've seen little snippets that have been dropped throughout the day about different settings, maybe that they're going to be teasing us with or giving us. And there was one, Shop, I'd love to see if you've seen this and get your thoughts, that talked about the 3 different game modes that you can pick from. Now, NHL, I haven't played this year's game, but last year's game I know had this where you can pick arcade, sim, or like all out extreme, where everything's like kind of like all Madden is right now. So, have you seen that where those 3 different settings? Kind of, what are your thoughts when you hear about that?
I think it's a good thing. I think it allows the developers some flexibility when it comes to implementing stuff for the community. I mean, these last 2 years, we've seen the game, in my opinion, come out really well at when it's released, and then they add some kind of patch, and I feel like the game has gone off kilter every time we get a new patch. But it allows for the different communities, the simulation communities, the competitive communities, to sort of dictate how they want their experience to be. You're looking at the Madden Championships are going on right now
Yeah.
on Madden's Twitch channel, and there's no penalties. There's, you know, no
No injury.
illegal hit out of bounds, no injuries, stuff like that. And maybe they don't want, you know, something like false starts, or they don't want any kind of, you know, those kind of penalties. Well, now EA can go in and say, you know what, for our competitive crowd, we don't want any false starts or stuff like that. So I think it only can be a good thing. I'm interested though to see what simulation means
Right.
to everybody, because I know personally, through my years of being in the community and in the sim community, sim means different things
Yeah.
to different people. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Now we're going to get into sort of like a subculture of sim community and sim playing.
Before we move on, I want to get everybody else's thoughts on kind of that. The couple of things I want to say is Sim Conversation is going to be its own podcast. I think that'll be a really interesting. We may have to go an hour for that one because I just see that getting into. I hope I see. I'm building up to that. I want us all to kind of get a little kumbaya things going here, getting to know each other before we just jump into a Sim conversation, because I can see people getting really passionate about that. A couple of things before I get you guys' thoughts, and I want to add another layer to this. I've tried to watch like this Madden competition stuff, and maybe I'm just an old fogey and I've been around too long, and probably why I've never been taken notice, and I'm not like a game changer or anything, which seems like a really cool thing that you guys get to do. But I can't get into it. I watched one, and he just put a tight end at halfback and just ran halfback dives all game or fullback dives all game, and I was like, I can't watch this. This is terrible. So here's the other layer that I want to add to what Shop was talking about is, do you worry that that they are going to trade in our sliders that we have, where you can really control a whole lot of stuff about how games function and feel in your league for those 3 game modes, and take away our slider options because instead they've given us those 3 game modes? Or do you feel like we're going to get both now?
I don't think it's going to change. Basically, I think the only thing that those 3 modes do is give you a place to start, and it gives you a place to play online. I'm going to guess that we're probably going to have lobbies or something for online games. So if you want to play a simulation game, or if you want to play a competitive game, that you can do that. And I think also for new people joining, it's going to kind of give them an option of, okay, do I want to play kind of arcade, or do I want to play kind of simulation, or do I think, you know, I'm Billy BA and I want to, you know, play competitive. I think you're still going to have, for leagues and for offline play, I think you're still going to have sliders. NHL has them. They have a ton of them. They have way more than Madden does. And so it's just a start. You know, it's just a place to start to kind of break people up into groups. And I think it's going to allow them to apply tuners differently for each one of them. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to take away from sliders. The one thing I will say about the sim, I think what's probably going to happen is the most vocal people in the sim community are going to get listened to, and they're going to dictate it based on that. They probably have metrics and stuff broken down for each one of the modes that they can view and say, okay, on our simulation setting, this is the amount of sacks we're getting, this amount of interceptions, penalties, etc. And then they can adjust it to try to meet what the real NFL average is. And you know, and the same thing for the other modes. So I don't think it's going to be a huge thing. It's going to be one of those things like simulation is going to be, you want to play the game like real football. And if it's a sim guy that's kind of in the middle between arcade and sim, he's going to have to pick one or the other. You want to be sim and you really want to play real football, or do you want to, you know, just kind of play balls to the wall arcade? And you're going to have to pick. And I don't think that's bad, because I think these guys that ride the line of what sim, you know, their version of sim is just punting on 4th down and you know, not running 4 verts 20 times a game. That's not really what sim means to a lot of the community. So it's going to force some of these guys to kind of declare their intentions and pick their mode and then kind of function within that. You know, at first I just wanted us to find this utopia and everybody come together and, you know, find one game mode that everybody can play, because I used to play competitively, you know, in tournaments locally, and I kind of like the idea of doing that again. But now that they've kind of announced it, I think it's the best thing. I think you got arcade mode for casuals, you got simulation mode for CFM and those hardcore sim guys, then you got a competitive mode, and everybody kind of gets their own thing, and I think it's going to be good for the community.
Squeaky wheel always gets the oil. Logan, what do you think about these 3 modes?
Yeah, I was just gonna elaborate. I do think, like you guys were saying, it's a starting point, and then I do think you're always gonna have custom options, just because some leagues like to do a lot of weird things. Like the idea of it being sim is one thing. Not using a tight end at a wide receiver spot. We would all agree. That gets kind of funky. Or using a tight end at a running back spot, right? The difference, though, would be like, well, could we agree what a wide receiver should catch at? Should it be at 51? Should it be at 22? So I do think the custom options are always needed. And I think if we didn't have those, it would be, we would get on because we're good leagues, but it would not be good. To go back to your point, because it's been a while, you were talking first about watching competitive play. I'll say the problem I have with it is these casual people, these 13-year-old people who are really influenced by this game or how they want to form their game. These commentators, when they commentate this stuff, act like that's real football. Like,
Sure.
There's one guy sent basically what looked to be a nano blitz or some kind of funky, non-football thing. I don't even know what it was. He got instant pressure, and the guy said, "Wow, that was a heck of a blitz." I'm like, that wasn't a blitz. That was not an NFL blitz. That was some kind of artificial, you messed the AI's ability to block, and he got into the backfield based on some flaw in the game. That's programming. That's not a blitz. So that stuff irritates me. But it is what it is. I think as long as everyone has their own avenue, I think it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think that sim podcast, hopefully you guys, or we can even get more in here. I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, I think that'll be a fun one for us to go, and that may stretch out over a couple of podcasts. So we got about 3 minutes here. I want to be respectful of all 3 of your Friday afternoons. Tell me just in 1 minute, if you can, why CFM? Let's kind of get back to what was supposed to be talked about today, but why CFM? What was kind of that theme that drew you in, that kept you there, that made you form your league or your community? Why CFM? Let's start with you, Majesty.
Well, I've always been a franchise guy. I'm going back to the old, all of the Maddens, and then even NCAA. I remember in NCAA 98 or whatever, you could name 12 teams or whatever, and I sat down and named them all. And I've always been a franchise guy. I always played it on my own, and then around 10, I started playing with one buddy in a league, and then we both started realizing, hey, this would be cooler if we had more people. And then you just kind of evolve and become you want real people to compete against versus just a CPU, and then you realize everybody's got a different idea of how to play the game, so then you start trying to refine it to finding people who think like you do and play like you do, so you can have a 32-person league with all people that think and play like you do, and get that real experience of that. A lot of times the CPU can't give you. I think it used to back in the day, 05, 06. Hopefully we can get back to that at some point, but without a great CPU, then I think online franchise gives people that feeling of being a GM.
Logan, why CFM for you?
Because I was a small town guy, man. A small town. There was not many people around, and we didn't have good internet. So I've always wanted diversity. I've always wanted to be around different people. So when I moved to the city, I said, you know what? Fast internet, I got to see. There's got to be people out there that think like I did. Because when we played when we were kids, I would be the commissioner. And if my friends restarted the game, I would beat the crap out of them, man. There would be punishment. So if you cheated during a game. So when I got the ability to go online and see some of these communities, it was just important for me to be around like-minded people. And I think that's why we started. And, it's just about community to me. We talk about competitive. We talk about what sim means. To me, at the core, it's about surrounding yourself with good people I built some good relationships with guys in my league that I've known for years. My co-commissioner Steve, we've had late night conversations about real life stuff recently. You build a camaraderie, I guess, and it reaches beyond the game and then into different avenues, and it just grows. And I think that's the main point.
Yeah, and Shop, I'm going to save the best for last. We're going to bring it over to you. I got to admit, though, I'm reading kind of your screen here with your phone. It says you're from Washington, which isn't weird at all, but then it says Washington Zone 3, which sounds like a real quarantine situation, man. I got to admit, it's a little weird, but why CFM for Shop?
For me, look, Madden for me is all about competition. And there was nothing when I was growing up, nothing better than to beat your friends. But when I got into college, you got guys from all over the world, who had different teams. Everybody wasn't a Washington Redskins fan. So it was all about, well, my team is better than your team. And are you a better GM than I am? And again, it just drives competitive nature. And just like the last person, the community. I love the community. Madden is a great community. I love each CFM is a little bit different. Some franchises have older guys. Some franchises have younger guys, and I think it's just a great way to compete with a whole bunch of people online. And ever since 2003, when they came online, I've been waiting for a franchise to be big.
Yeah, my story's a lot like all three of yours. A lot like Majesty said, I used to play offline franchise mode, like, first PlayStation 1 whenever Madden was there, and just really enjoyed it. And then, to be honest, I got in like middle of 2000. I got turned on to online Tecmo Bowl leagues, which are still a thing. These guys were updating Tecmo Bowl and playing it. And I guess I would say most of us probably grew up on Tecmo Bowl. That's kind of what ignited football games for me, and then Madden dropped. But I started playing this online league, and I was like, wow, this is a thing. Like, this is a community. They had forums, they had chats, the competition of a cheesy game in Tecmo Bowl. And then when the new game dropped, Madden dropped in 2001, you used to have your own server. So my computer itself was the server for my league. And as long as my computer had that server on, people could get on. And I worked nights way back when. And so I would get in at 3:00 in the morning, and there would be dudes on there. There was like a little chat function built in on the game on the server. And that first like 2 a.m. long conversation about Madden, about your team, about the franchise, I was hooked. And 16 years later, look, being a commissioner is hard. I got so much respect. Here's my one little shot at the community. Every podcast has to have like something that grabs people's attention. Well, here's my little shot across the community. Whenever I started to offer this to as many leagues as I know that are out there, I just started blasting this out. There were a handful of places that really were not interested. They didn't get it, and they kind of acted like that was below them a little bit, which was interesting to me, just how leagues tend to get competitive with each other. And I don't get that, because like you all said, I think Shop said it the best, that it is the guys. That's the reason I do it. Like my guys and those relationships. I've got one guy that's been with me for 16 years, man. We've known each other through Madden for 16 years. We'll probably never get to meet, but I know about his family. He knows about my family. Like, we have been buddies for 16 years. And just the relationships, I wouldn't trade any of my guys for anybody. Every league, just you get those relationships that fit, and that's what makes it worth it. And I know how hard all of you commissioners or board members or whatever role that you play in your league, even if you're just an owner and you put out content, like I dig that. Like, you are spending your spare time, energy, efforts into something that is like not a thing. Like, none of us get paid for this, at least I don't. And you just do it for the passion and the love of it. And for me, it's the relationship. So, man, thank all three of you guys for being on tonight and giving up your Friday. We've went about 40 minutes long. And so hopefully no wives or girlfriends or mates or anything like that is upset with us. I know my wife is probably like counting down in the living room right now. But it has been a whole lot of fun. I hope everybody digs this, man. I hope that you guys dig it. I hope that you come back and do this again with me. Again, my main focus is just to get people talking about CFM, and there's a wealth of knowledge and different views and aspects, and I've learned a lot tonight, and I learn a lot every time I get to talk with different guys who run their own thing and kind of do their own thing. And I just want to kind of keep this conversation going. I think there are a lot of topics that we can all share with each other and really have some good conversations. And honestly, not to get on the same page, like not to have these conversations so that we can all agree. Let's just have the conversations to have the conversations. And I think the more CFM talk that's out there, the more the EA will kind of take notice that we're out there. And there's a lot of good dudes doing a lot of cool stuff. There are some leagues out there that just blow me away. Like, we work really hard. I'm super proud of the fact that we have been around for 16 years, but I got to be honest, like the stuff that Shop does and PX1, like there's some leagues out there, Bombers League, I got to give them some props. Like, there's some people doing some legit cool stuff that I can't do. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many of us that kind of do our own thing, and there's a lot to offer, and I think we need to draw attention to that. So, any closing statements before we wrap this up, fellas? I appreciate you being on tonight.
Yeah, no problem. It was. I think it's always good to be a part of this. My only closing thing is I just tweeted this out, so you guys can check it out on Twitter. But on the Madden website, that has, if you could scroll down to the bottom, it has a little thing on franchise mode, and it says you can choose to play or manage your franchise from the app. So that hits to some things. Definitely some expansion on the app, and I wonder what kind of things you can do. Can you sim games and stuff like that on the app? So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
Let's make sure we bring that up if you guys come and rejoin me again. Any closing thoughts, Logan or Shop?
I have one. We talked about commissioners and what CFM means to us. Anyone watching, if you hear about this, you watch it, obviously, today, tomorrow, a month from now, leave a comment wherever this video ends up. Tell us what CFM means to you, because we're commissioners. We're always looking for people, but we're always as strong as our members. So it also matters what you guys think. So give us some feedback so we can do this again, and then maybe we get your question answered, or we expand on something you wanted to talk about.
Shop, closing thoughts. Yeah. Bring us home, baby.
Yeah. My closing thought is, guys, just when you're on social media, guys, shout out the CFM movement, franchise movement. Believe me, EA Sports does take a look at those things, and is definitely on their radar. I had someone from EA actually say, hey, look, yeah, we sort of looked up hashtag CFM movement to see what people are doing and see how many people are tweeting and what the engagement is like. So definitely make sure you guys are tweeting that out, and so we can get EA's attention.
Man, thank all of you guys. All of you guys I kind of have a different relationship with, and I kind of know you from different areas. Logan has been listening to our podcast off and on for a little bit now, and I appreciate his relationship that has formed with me. PX1 Majesty, man, you're out there doing your thing and really promoting. These Twitter conversations get out of hand, man. I'm like, there's like 600 replies. I am not going through all of this. But, man, Shop, thank you for everything you're doing for CF Movement. We try our very best to tag everything to you and just let you know what we're doing out there. Shout out to all the good leagues out there. Look, Bomber League, there's a league called Aztec or something like that that's out there. There's so many. There's a ton of them, okay? You guys are always invited in here. We can have up to 10 people on at one time. So the next time we do this, you guys are more than welcome to come out here. I'll get this baby all processed and put it out there. I'll make sure that all three of you get it, and just help us promote it, and we'll get it out there on Daddy Leagues website. But again, thank you guys so much. Very gracias for your time and your effort and everything that you do for CFM. We will see you again in a couple of weeks, guys. Peace.
Take care.
Fail.